It's spring, and that means love is in the air, and so are allergies. But today, we're going to talk about relationships and how to make love last. So let's talk about best practices in partner communication. A process by which information is exchanged between individuals through a common system of symbols, signs, or behavior. This is communication, the definition of communication. And communication is one of the biggest keys to making and maintaining a relationship. Before we dive into the best practices, let's look at some factors that may influence the way we communicate. According to Rachel DeMoog and Deborah Mullen in their article Attachment and Conflict Communication in Adult Romantic Relationships, attachment plays a role in communication by being seen as a vehicle for fostering intimacy and trust in relationships. So, what are those attachment styles and how do they play a role in how we communicate? Secure attachment style. These guys tend to hold a positive self-image and image of others, and they have expectations that others are generally accepting and responsive. So you can see that these guys are ready to communicate, they want to talk about the problems, and they want to get them solved. Next is dismissive avoidant attachment style. They have a positive self-image but a negative image of others, viewing other people as untrustworthy. And they tend to avoid close relationships. So these guys are going to have the mentality that I'm always right, you're always wrong. So they're going to be typically harder to communicate with. Next is preoccupied attachment style. They tend to have a negative self-image, have a positive image of others, and they have a need to seek approval and validation. These are your people pleasers. So they're not going to tell you how they're feeling, but they're going to tell you what you want to hear. Next is fearful avoidant attachment style. These guys have a negative self-image, negative image of others. They want validation, but they have this fear of rejection. These guys are just going to be hard to communicate with in general. So we can see how each of these might play a role in how we communicate, but this doesn't have to be the end of the conversation. If we know what to look for, we can communicate more effectively. With awareness, we can improve our communication, so let's take a look at what ineffective or bad communication looks like. You language and plus directives. You language in itself isn't necessarily bad, but when you add it with a directive, a statement that either passes negative judgment or orders another person around, you can see where that might cause an issue. For example, using the phrase, "you are useless," can cause someone to shut down and perhaps cause more of an issue when no response is uttered. The speaker is going to be frustrated. Why aren't you responding to me? The listener's going to be like, why the heck should I respond to you? Next is universal statements, and these are a statement that generalizes a person's character or behavior in a negative way. These statements will often be used in conjunction with you statements. For example, you forget to do this every time. This implies to the speaker there is no other way for the listener to be. Also, this statement is problematic because it's only pointing out what is wrong and not how to improve. Next, tough on the person, soft on the issue. And this is kind of self-explanatory. This is being rough on the person and not on the issue or behavior at hand. It would be phrases like, "you're a slob, do you ever clean?" In this example, the speaker is attacking the listener for the issue that is really bothering them. Adding insults does not help the issue at all. Invalidating feelings. This one is also pretty self-explanatory, especially if you've ever been told you're blowing things way out of proportion. You know that doesn't feel particularly good to hear, and it may trigger you to start second-guessing your own emotions or your own actions. Next, this is one I decided to add from personal experience, and it's being distracted / ignored from your partner is really frustrating and can make you feel invalidated or unimportant. A popular form of this is actually phubbing, and that means snubbing someone with your phone, which is basically ignoring them for whatever's going on that tiny little screen. So you might think, What's the issue with all of this stuff? I do this, it's fine. Well, communicating this way can cause something called the 3 Fs: fight, flight, and freeze. And if you're causing a fight situation, they're going to feel defensive and start maybe yelling back or firing back. With flight, they might just avoid. They're going to walk away, they're going to ignore the problem, maybe run away from you in general. And then there's freeze, and the individual might just shut down completely. They're going to go to the happy place in their mind and avoid this entirely. So the 3 Fs can cause communication to go down the drain, so it's best to avoid doing the styles that we covered of ineffective communication. Instead, let's do this. Let's give your partner their full attention. No fubbing. Contradicting my last GIF, make eye contact, but don't stare them down. This isn't the Wild West. Use I statements. For example, I'm feeling overwhelmed by the number of chores we have. Using I statements can help take the pressure off your partner. Don't interrupt. Let them finish their thought and then respond. Invite your partner to share their thoughts. Ask what they think about the situation, or ask if they have an idea for a solution. Don't dominate the conversation. Communication is about a back and forth interaction. Let your partner know you understand by reflecting to what they have said. For example, I understand that you're feeling overwhelmed by the amount of chores that we have. If there is a problem you're trying to solve, come to the table with solutions, not accusations. Be willing to listen. Being a good listener is probably one of the most important things you can do. Make sure you are picking up what your partner's putting down. Last, I wanted to add a few of my own tips. Be aware of your tone. If you sound angry when approaching something, the conversation is probably not going to go well. If you're trying to have a serious conversation, showing up in a jokey manner is not going to make your partner take it seriously. Take time to cool down before you approach your partner. Coming to a conversation frustrated is not going to solve anything. Even if you have to, if the conversation is getting heated, take time to walk away. At least communicate to your partner that you need time to think. Be honest, but not brutal. That whole people can't handle me because I'm honest, no. Just no. You are being rude and unnecessarily harsh. Here's an example. That dress doesn't look good on you. You can see your muffin top. The better approach would have been, I think that dress doesn't work well with you. Let's try something else. It's still honest without completely destroying any self-confidence they may have. Communication is hard, especially with loved ones, but nonetheless, it is important, and taking the time to work on a few of these tips and practices can make the world of difference in making your love last. It's not the only thing, but it is an important thing. And if you'd like more information or to follow up on some of the things that I've talked about today, here's where you can find them.